No, I'm not like I don't know. There's a side of me that's pretty shy. That doesn't I'm the person that like if I see somebody at the grocery store that I know, I fucking immediately bolt the other way.
Yeah.
Like it's a stop, drop, and roll procedure.
Mhm.
Like the building's on fire,
Yeah.
like I'm like put on the brakes
Yeah.
and like I'll cut so fast you'll think I'm Barry Sanders, I'm
Yeah.
moving so swiftly,
Breaking people's ankles. And, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
kind of the same way. I don't like seeing people.
And I don't
Ever.
know why. I don't know what
Period.
I think's gonna come of it. Oh God forbid I got to say hi to somebody.
Yeah.
I'd almost rather say hello to like a stranger. Like I don't have any problem picking up conversation with like the cashier randomly. So I don't know. It's just a weird personality trait. But yesterday, I went to a tailgate thingy which tailgating is tailgating is really weird. It's a strange thing.
Mhm.
I went to a UC Davis football game, and we're trying to explain it to Quinn, and Quinn's like, "Oh, cool, we get to go to a football game." I'm like, "I don't even think we're going in." She's like, "Well, what's the point?" She's like, "Don't you love football?" I'm like, "Yeah, I love football, but like, really just go and like hang out, eat with people."
Yeah.
It's like a mobile barbecue, I guess.
Do you guys know anybody at the tailgate, or were you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
okay?
Andy's swim friends go
Okay.
every time, and so we ended up kind of kicking it with them. And then after that, it was one of her friends' birthday party. So we went to this birthday party, and that was we were in like Vacaville, kind of like weird back roads off the freeway, like way back. Like Dixon is kind of like that too. Like if you go off the 80 freeway
Mhm.
and you're out near like where Kuyu is or where the new Dutch Brothers is in like Dixon, you can get lost back there, man. There's like tons of farmland, kind of
Yeah.
like where I'm moving to. There's like tons of farmland, and it's like no man's land. But man, we went to this house. It was super nice. So it was kind of a combination birthday party, like housewarming party. These people, they just moved into this home, and
Mhm.
I ended up in like full seminar kicking mode because people kept asking me a lot of nutrition questions and workout questions, and I was learning that some of these people that have been swimming their whole lives, um, they're not taking care of themselves in some other ways, and so they're still facing a lot of the same things a lot of people face that don't exercise. And I was like, man, I'm like, this doesn't bode well for trying to get people to exercise.
Yeah.
And it's because our food supply is just so jacked up. We still have a lot of healthy foods available to us. It's not like we're just literally being poisoned, but we're poisoning ourselves with our food options because we're starting to love the foods that have a lot of junk in them more so than the foods that don't have a lot of junk in them. And it's really easy to kind of build this mindset of like, oh man, it's convenient. We got so much great convenient food, but those great convenient foods really are not normally that healthy. And if you kind of flip the dialogue around and say, oh my God, we have a lot of great healthy food around, you can start to recognize that we have more healthy food. We have more personal trainers, more fitness centers, more education, more books. There's more information, especially in the United States, than ever when it
Mhm.
comes to, combating heart disease, combating uh, diabetes, high blood pressure, all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of great methods behind options for that, and we're not doing it. And this one woman in particular, she mentioned, and I thought this was fascinating, and we got in this discussion about how other countries they may not even think about it, which is wild. They may not even think about it at all, but they struggle with it a lot less. So it's like how have they figured that out? Like in France and Italy, and I've been to some of these countries, and they're still enjoying wine, they're still smoking, they still have habits that probably aren't great,
Mhm.
but they're not like Americans, where it's just this constant flow of tons and tons and tons of food. And so it just brings up a lot of interesting stuff. Like, can you combat really anything with fitness? I mean, I guess it would be like this. Like if you're healthy enough to put out enough effort to be able to, make up for a shit diet, then possibly. But that just means everything in your system's working really well and that you can, I'm not talking about, just patty caking on the weekends and coming in the gym and messing around. I'm talking about like really being able to, have like a Rich Froning style workout, or like the way my wife and her friends, they go and swim, and they swim for like an hour. And I think most of them can admit like that's probably not enough to make up for bad dietary choices. So it's an interesting thing, but it opens up the conversation for like, man, like we better kind of like develop some good lifestyle habits against all this stuff that's here, because in other countries they're not even sweating it, they're not even thinking about it. They just happen to walk more, and they happen to bike more because it happens to be part of their lifestyle. So they don't really have to sit around and think about, man, I better get on a ketogenic diet on Monday because I got to lose 60 pounds. And you know why they don't think that way? Because they ain't got 60 pounds to lose. They might have 10. They might have 20. But they ain't got 60.
Yeah, I thought. Sorry, I thought it was pretty interesting on a recent podcast. We were talking about like cancers and people being overweight in other countries, and one of the answers was like, oh, it's because they don't have enough money to have access to all the foods that we have. And it's like, whoa, like by them being not having as much money, they're almost luckier in a way, because now they don't have to worry about buying so much extra shit food. Like I thought, to me, like that just sounds crazy when I heard it. I was like, wow, like that's insane.
When we think about that, like in some places, like I guess in places that are that have more poverty to deal with, yes, like you don't have as much money to buy food. Even here, like Andrew coined this because I mentioned something like
Cha-ching.
I mentioned lifestyle inflation because we were talking about when you're in college or when you're just getting out of high school, you don't have much money, so you're being real cheap with your food. You're not eating a lot, or if you are, you're cooking your food. But when you start making more money here, right, you start eating out more, which builds bad habits. So there's lifestyle inflation, which happens when people start making more money. They don't even realize they spend more. Then there's calorie inflation with you eating out more. But in these countries, like you were mentioning, the habits that they have in these like European countries, France, Italy, etc., right? What's the big difference you hear from people that go there and then they come to America and have a meal? It's, oh my God, what is this, like 2 meals? Is it every meal here is like 2 or even potentially 3 meals there. So you wonder, why do we have
God bless America.
It's true. Everything in America is bigger.
Damn it.
Yeah, cue that American music in.
I was watching this video from a podcast, the H3 podcast. He's a pretty funny dude, but his wife Ela is from Israel. And Ethan, her husband, in Israel, he was skinnier, but when he got to the US, he got fat. And I think it was a podcast with Bill Burr. And she was like, I came to the US and it's like the food here is so disrespectful. She called it disrespectful because she was like, how do people eat this much food?
It's gluttonous. Yeah.
It's gluttonous. And it's because like from a kid, you're used to eating these foods and this amount of food, because typically your parents are too. And when you get older, you're like, you can't eat food without massive portion sizes. So these other countries that are able to just keep the weight off without really having to think about exercise or having to think about diet, well, they have the habit of just eating less food with every single meal. Like you mentioned that dude that you put on your Instagram. You in one of your podcasts, you said, just eat twice a day. And then he eats twice a day. He builds that habit and he loses, 100 pounds?
It was insane in a really short period of time, too.
It's weird how that worked out, though.
Think about that. All that was just eating 2 meals. In other countries, that's probably normal to eat the amount of food that guy was eating. But here, you're eating less. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just having better habits with the amount of food you eat.
People are like, yo, how the fuck do I start my day without my muffin? Like, no. You're telling me I got to start. Fuck you. I'm not starting my day without my muffin and without my Frappuccino.
Dude,
get the fuck out! Like, don't come at me with that shit. You're making me angry. It's like, man, it's just simple removal of some food, man. It shouldn't be. It's like they're a little kid, Dude. I understand it though. I've been on that side too, where it's like the second that somebody was telling me about low carb, I was like, I can't eat pasta.
Same here.
Are you kidding me? I can't have. Motherfucker, give that back to me. Why'd you steal that from me?
When you said muffin, it sparked. This happened yesterday. I went to Costco.
Oh God,
dude! No, check this out. So we're Costco on the weekend is just like I literally can do anything else, but I needed to go buy a battery for my car. Yeah. I'm trying to pull into this parking spot, and this guy, he like when you have one hand, you can't like turn the wheel hard enough. This dude's eating a gigantic muffin. I'm like, okay, that takes some like a lot of commitment, because he bought a big ass box that has at least 85 muffins, and he's willing to risk the freshness of all 84 other ones so he can eat this one before he leaves the parking lot of Costco. Like, dude, like, you couldn't wait, like, I don't know, whatever the 10 minutes it takes to get home. Like,
maybe it's a bigger commitment than you think. Maybe he bought a bunch of tiny Ziploc bags and he's stuffing them all in there.
Bro, Costco gets people those muffins though, because it's like, I think they sell one box of muffins for like $5, but it's actually 2 for $5. So like when you'll come out with one, and the cash register will be like, you could just get 2 for the same price.
Yeah.
It gets like, see, and that muffin's like 6. Have you ever seen a Costco muffin?
No.
I used to love Costco muffins. Each muffin is about 600 calories.
Oh my God.
And they don't fill you up.
And
So you
why?
have to have
And why
two.
is a muffin like in a weird, like, muffins are in a weird category by
Like a
themselves?
health food, right?
Yeah.
It is.
Everything at Whole Foods is healthy too, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
weird?
Yeah.
It's the colorways and stuff they have in there. Like, things are kind of green, and like things don't seem all that aggressive. They don't seem like they're gonna. Everything seems nice in there, and things are organic.
Mm-hmm.
Organic, gluten free. It means that it's calorie free, right?
Yeah, that it's but that's the thing. It's like, it's still just the amount. You can eat a lot of this food, a lot of this healthy food, and you'll still gain weight. But another thing that you're mentioning about those people, I know a lot of individuals that are like my age and younger. Let's like when you're younger, you can, and some people do, not everybody, but some people do get away with just having really bad nutritional habits and not gaining weight. For some people, that it works for them. So they feel, oh, I don't really need to pay attention to this, or even exercise. I know people that don't exercise much right now because they still look great. So they're like, I don't really need to. But then you don't build these habits now. You get older and older. The weight starts coming. You're like, oh, it's fine. It'll go away. Life starts happening. Maybe you get a new job where you're sitting all day. And then sooner or later, you're 35 years old. You're overweight. You're not strong because you don't lift or do anything. And you're wondering how the hell to get out of it. I've even seen like quite a bit. This is something I've been seeing more of recently. I don't know if it's just because I've been seeing more people on Instagram or whatever, but there's quite a few people that are like young in their 20s with diabetes that work out. They work out. What's the deal there?
Yeah, you should. That should be impossible.
It should be,
because you're I mean, lifting weights, you literally burn sugar. They say one of the best things you can do for diabetes is to go and lift some weights. I mean, think about like just something like 3 sets of 10 of like leg extensions. That's literally burning up glycogen, burning up sugar. So there shouldn't be a way, but you can out eat it.
You can out eat it
in a heartbeat. I mean, I'm not huge on calories and stuff, but like, do you ever track anything? And you ever look at like, you could walk for like an hour at a pretty good pace, and it's like the hour almost seems like a waste, because like, what did you burn, 400 calories or something like that? I mean, you can eat that in a second, or you could drink that in even faster period of time. I mean, just drink a thing of orange juice, which you would think orange juice is. I'm not even going to say orange juice is unhealthy, but people sometimes will drink stuff like that and do so recklessly and not really think about it. It's like, man, you just kind of wiped out the walk that you did.
Yeah. That's why I'm really happy that I was willing to try out doing the lower carb thing.
You were getting fat, bro.
Well, not.
I just want to say I've been identifying as Nigerian lately because I think it's going to get me more jacked, and coincidentally enough, it added 4 inches to my dick.
Well, no, that's the thing. If you believe, you can achieve.
See?
And if you identify, first off,
and you got to try it.
Seriously,
I was shocked. I took a shower this morning. I was shocked.
We were talking about this. If you can identify as a Nigerian, you can gain muscle mass, intelligence, and like you said that. But the best thing, identify as being Nsima.
Here we go.
Put like a poster on your mirror and just put "I am Nsima Inyang."
No,
Do you have a mirror in my bathroom? Do you have a camera in my bathroom? Because I already have.
Dude, that's
I already
all you
have
gotta
a
do.
poster.
That's all you got to do.
It's kind of weird.
Instead of that, I'm just gonna make a life-size cutout and put that in the mirror of you. So when I walk up to the mirror, I just see myself as you.
You know what's even better? Make a printout of Nsima's face and paste that over your face, so that
Just
whenever
walk
you
around
look
like that.
in the mirror, you see Nsima, who is you now.
Yeah, and then when people see me, there's like Nsima. Oh wait, no.
You know what we could
not
also do? We could
Nsima.
put football pads underneath your T-shirt
Yeah.
so that you feel the way Nsima feels every day with those giant shoulders.
That's all you got to do,
Yeah,
man. If
Deadlift
you
sock
believe-
down my
yeah.
pants.
Oh,
Yeah.
If you
Couple
believe
pairs.
you can achieve, live on a higher frequency. All right, everybody, this is a joke. I want people to know.
Well,
Some
everybody
people
to
are like, this
know
dude's a dick.
I think a lot of people are writing this down.
This is
Taking notes.
the most honest Nsima we've ever experienced on the podcast.
The real
Nsima.
Nsima, please
Oh,
stand
man.
up.
Yo,
Yeah.
where the hell were we? We were on a really good track there, and we just lost.
We
We
were
didn't.
talking
we're
about
good.
something.
We'll get back to it.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about some other countries and stuff, and I may have mentioned this on this podcast, but this was like a short piece that I saw on like 60 Minutes or something like that. Somebody came to this country from Sweden, and they're actually very. Their reason for filming and stuff changed when they came over here to the United States, and then they started kind of like a mission against like Lay's potato chips because they were building a factory in Sweden. It was the first factory they were building there, and the thing that was really big was that there really wasn't a lot of snacks in Sweden at the time. And this is only 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. So there was no snacks, or very little amount of snacks. I'm sure they have candy and stuff. But it's kind of uncommon to have a snack there. And so this factory was being built. But these people, aside from that, they were coming to America, and they were just going to film their vacation.
Mhm.
And they were going to show people like, hey, like, you know, this is what we did while we were in like Florida or whatever. They could not believe how obese people were. And so the guy was in total shock. He's like, I'm going to document this. So instead of filming him and his kids and having a good time, he filmed how fat everybody was.
Oh, God.
And he kind of made like a mini doc. I don't know like where it ended up or whatever, but it ended up being part of this 60 Minutes piece. And he was sharing that on this, you know, in this interview. And he was like, we couldn't believe it. We didn't understand, you know, why everyone's so heavy. And then, like you said, they went to go eat, and they kind of just saw like, even on vacation, people were pretty like sedentary. Like they would rather drive somewhere than walk somewhere, and they were just kind of observing from that standpoint, and they were like, oh my God, like this is crazy. But snacks are a huge thing. I think that snacks might even be worse than like desserts, because I think that in most cases, I mean, everybody's a little different. Like some people, they have to have a dessert every time they eat. Now that's a little crazy. I think in my opinion, a dessert would be something you might have once or twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds pretty reasonable to me. You really like pie, you have it once a week after your dinner or something like that, and I can understand that. Maybe you have it when you have guests over the house. That's very common to do, but other than that, I don't really see, you know, people like really, you know, crushing desserts. People will crush some ice cream here and there, and they don't really think about it as dessert. They just mindlessly will have some ice cream at night while they're watching TV.
Yeah.
That's not really great. I would consider that more snacking. But I think that snacking is a real problem for a lot of people. And so, like, eat twice a day or eat 3 times a day. What if you even just said, dude, like, you're only allowed to consume calories 4 times a day. I don't care how you do it or whatever way you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice if you did it in like a window of like 4 or 6 hours or 8 hours or whatever. But even that rule might really help people a lot, because, like I said, they might be gulping down some orange juice, or maybe they're having coffee with sugar in it. And maybe they're just kind of eating some mindless snacks, whether they sit there just eating pretzels while they're watching TV. What's wrong with pretzels? Absolutely nothing. Pretzels are probably okay in a lot of ways. They don't really have a lot of calories in them, but still, it's still something that is probably not necessary for your nutrition.
Yeah. The snacking thing, like for example, that the pretzels example that you just gave, yeah, it's not great for your nutrition, but the thing is like you never just have like one little baggie of pretzels. You know, you probably have more than that, probably have substantially more, because at the same time that, like, you know, we talk about not snacking, a lot of people look at snacks as healthy alternatives. Okay, so you have these snacks, you're eating a snack at work. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm on my diet kick or whatever. But then you also have all these other meals too. You know, if you just have like you said, have a habit of just like only have your calories coming from meals, or have just, if you have calories, have them coming from 2 or 3 meals each day. Just don't snack on things. Keep
Healthy
away from that.
alternative. I think you hit the nail on the head, because somebody thinks they might be doing something kind of positive for themselves.
Mhm.
And really it's probably doing more harm than good, and it's probably not a great practice to get into. And it's like, how do we get people kind of around that? Like, can you munch on something? And I think that you can. I think if you're strategic about it, I think that you can. And you can find stuff that fits your particular style or your particular diet. And I know that some of this stuff might sound disgusting in comparison, but like you could have like some vegetables and like some hummus. Hummus has some protein in it. You can
I
buy
like that.
certain kinds of hummus that doesn't really have a lot of calories in it. So, I mean, you can like, and things like cottage cheese. I know some people don't like love cottage cheese, but you could put cottage cheese on celery. Like trying to give you some stuff you can arm yourself so that you can still stuff your face while you're watching TV. I personally will have yogurt sometimes, and I'll mix some Slingshot protein in there, and I kind of like that mindlessness of like doing something. I also, because I've been doing this for a long time, I have the ability to be like, all right, I'm just going to sit here and not do anything, you know. But on occasion, I don't feel like doing that. I also have the ability to just tell myself, go to fucking bed. Like, just, you know, just if I stay up the extra hour, 2 hours, what am I going to do? I'm just going to consume extra calories. And what do I need? I need more sleep. I don't need extra calories, but I could certainly use more rest. So I'm like, go to fucking bed.
I know.
No, I was gonna say, what I hear a lot of people when it comes to snacks, especially if they're being coached by somebody, it's sort of like the bridge between each meal, so that way they don't get extremely hungry. So that way they get like overeat when it actually comes to their meal.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know that that's a flawed argument, but that's what I hear more than anything. Is it's like, oh, well, if I don't have my snacks, then I get too hungry, and then I just want to eat everything in sight. When
Yeah.
really it's probably just making them even more hungry.
Well, I think what a
is.
snack will do, though, too, and I've said this a million times, take your favorite healthy food, favorite healthiest food, you know, like it could be like for a lot of us, it's like a ribeye or, you know, a filet, some sort of steak, right? For other people, it might be chicken thigh or whatever it is. Eat a handful of Doritos and then try to eat that food. Like it will have no flavor to it. And so I think that snacks, they interrupt your hunger, your true hunger. And when it's time to eat, you actually want hunger. And if you're going to overeat, I think it's okay to overeat and overindulge on some of those things that are healthier, like your actual meal, because you could be filling up your cup for your micronutrients and your macronutrients at the same time. And if we have some overflow and overspill of it here and there, it's not really going to harm us. If we do it all the time, then it's going to be hard to lose weight, which is what a lot of people's goals are, is to lose some weight. But if we're doing it occasionally because we were a little extra hungry, I think it's totally fine. And when you eat snacks, it's probably doing very, very little. I can't imagine it doing much of anything to fill up your micronutrients for the day. When you start to fill up your micronutrients for the day, you're going to also recognize that you're just not as hungry.
Yeah.
I had some people yesterday at this party telling me they switched over to like eating a little bit less carbs. And they're like, yeah, man, like I just have like 2 eggs and like 2 slices of bacon. And I'm like I'm good for hours. Like that fills me up pretty good. And you don't normally hear people say that, like from kind of a typical breakfast, even a breakfast that has, you know, a couple of eggs and some like potatoes with it. You a lot of times you'll hear somebody say, man, like 2 hours later, I was starving again, or I was really tired. You know, and I personally haven't had to deal with hardly any of that over the last 2 or 3 years. Like my energy's been pretty consistent. It's really rare for me to be tired. There's times when, because I wake up early, there's times when I don't get enough sleep. But I try to correct that later on in the week. I try to pay attention to that. It's something I really monitor because I realize it can negatively impact everything else.
Yeah.
But you know, try to get yourself on a schedule where you're starting to get rid of some of those snacks, and when it's time to eat, you're actually chowing down on the stuff that's important.
Let me ask this. You know how we had like Charlie on the other day, and he, you know, talked a lot about he loves his sugar. How do you feel about fruits as snacks? How do you feel about, like, because I don't really know about people overindulging on apples or oranges, right? Things like grapes and stuff like that. Even like people can go crazy on those, but at the same time, they're actually really not that calorie dense. They're a lot of water. So how do you feel about that? Because I mean, generally, you know, we talk about lower carb, right? they don't end up being that much in the big scheme of things, not as much as like your typical snacks.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, how do you feel about that?
Let's just back up a second. One final thing on snacks is like, teach your kids, and if you work with people, teach people about serving sizes. Say like, hey, look, man, if you're really having a hard time cutting this stuff out, read what the serving size is and have a serving size. Take it out of the bag. Don't walk into the other room or in front of the TV with the bag.
Yeah.
Put it in a small cup or mug or bowl or whatever. Have the serving size. If you're really dying and you want to go back one more time, go ahead and have at it. When it comes to fruit, it's really, really rare for people to, like, if I said you can have, apples, oranges, some of these different kinds of fruit, it's really rare for someone to eat an apple and then to be like, oh my God, I'm still starving. I want to have like I don't know what it is about an apple, but and an apple's like not going to make you be like, oh my God, I'm stuffed. You're not going to say that either. But could you imagine sitting there watching TV, you eat an apple, and then you get up and you peel an orange? Could you imagine really being that much hungrier after that?
Yeah.
I would say, look, man, if you're still in a frenzy, then, try to calm yourself down with like a protein shake or something but more than likely you're probably going to be good. I think you can run into a problem where you maybe overdo like grapes or berries and things like that. And and those things could crush your stomach. You could be out in the toilet for a long time if you're not used to those things. So that would be the only thing I would caution against. Not that they're bad for you or anything. I just think that you could kind of screw up your stomach. But even on a ketogenic diet, there's still room for some fruits, especially some berries. They're not going to really spike your insulin all that much. And in the Keto Perfect book, is Keto Answers, is that the name of the book?
Yeah, the Keto Answers book.
Yeah, Keto Answers book by Anthony Gustin. He talks a lot about, he gives you the foods that you can eat, and he actually even talks about like low sugar fruits, which are olives, avocados, and I think peppers. Hopefully I have that right. And those are things that you don't really think of as like a fruit, but they are a fruit, and they and look, avocados or almonds or olives, freaking, they're awesome. Like, sit down in front of your I don't know, like some people don't have a palate for olives. They don't like them, but I happen to like olives quite a bit. Eat a couple olives. It's like you're going to eat like, I don't know, 10 of them. You're not going to eat like 50 of them. You're probably going to be like feel disgusted if you ate that many olives.
Yeah, was it Matt Vincent that said that when they have to break someone out of their house from My 600-Pound Life, they're not having to push banana peels everywhere?
Yeah, not having to push banana peels out of the way to cut the person out of the house. Yeah.
Which, I mean, that makes a ton of sense.
And there's a lot of research on fruit too, where they've done these studies where people have had like 3 pieces of fruit every day versus having 6 pieces of fruit every day versus having like 25 pieces of fruit every day. The only thing that happened in the people that had 25, I'm making these numbers up, but the only thing that happened in the people that had the most amount of fruit is they just took bigger shits. It's the biggest poops ever recorded in any study that they've ever run before. And also the people were, I think they were losing weight better than the other groups. So
Wow.
Fruit, I mean, I think that fruit is powerful, and I don't know about you guys, and I don't know if it's like a mental thing, but I know as like a kid, like when I would have some fruit, I felt like I was powering up. I felt like Mario hitting the question mark and getting the mushroom out of there. Like I felt like I was kind of hulking up, and that could just be like what you're taught. It's like, oh, it's got vitamin C. So
Popeye.
Popeye with the spinach. Like you felt super strong. I remember like I gulped down some orange juice, and I was like, I'm gonna be jacked. I'm gonna be so strong.
It was always the most refreshing thing ever. Like especially like because
it's delicious.
My mom would like cut up watermelon, and we just go to town. I'm just like, oh, this is way better than like drinking water right now. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I love this because like, okay, so yeah, I still. At the end of the day, I still think counting can come into place here and there, but like just changing certain habits, you don't necessarily have to count if you're trying to lose weight. Like, first off, the guy that ate 2 meals. Secondly, just don't have packaged snacks around the house and instead eat snacks that are potentially like fruits or something, but other snacks. Like, I think this is one thing that a lot of people can overindulge on, typically almonds and like nuts. That ends up being a killer for a lot of people because you can really just like kill those, and you they're very calorically dense. So as much as like these whole foods we're talking about that are pretty good as snacks, things like nuts, you got to be careful with that for sure.
Yeah, and they can kind of they also have a lot of fiber in them and stuff, which can be great. But
Hmm.
it's like if you're gonna eat those things, in my opinion, the best way to do it would be to like ration them out and put them in a small Ziploc
Yes.
and like you label it like there's fucking 10 macadamia nuts in there or whatever.
Hmm.
You try to just put a small amount in there because, like you said, it's the calories are going to be through the roof on that.
They're going to be through the roof. But like if you just like change a lot of these habits, it's going to be very, very easy to lose weight and keep it stress free. And then looking at portion sizes on the back, in a sense, like you're still kind of paying attention to those calories too, because you understand like X amount or like 1 cup of this or whatever is how many calories. But it does take away a lot of the stress of having to count everything that you do eat to try and lose weight. If you just have one less meal, etc., this is still caloric restriction to a sense, but you're not having to count every single thing that you eat. And that in itself sometimes is better than counting calories, because a lot of people that do count calories do, like, especially in the IFYM crowd, they add in a lot of things that wouldn't necessarily be the best thing nutritionally, but they do it because they can make it fit. And it, in the long run, that doesn't help them out nutritionally in keeping the weight off, for their lifetime, or, maintaining that weight loss.
There's a lot of weird things that can creep into your nutrition as well. And we like at this party, it was interesting because people pick up bits and pieces of stuff. They read articles, and then they pick up words that they attach to for specific reasons. There was one person there that cares about the environment, and she was like, "Well, what do you think about like glyphosates?" And glyphosates are, it's like Roundup. It's like shit that's used on our crops, and it's in a lot of our foods that we eat. It's in our food supply.
Hmm.
It's in just about everything. And it was interesting in talking to like kind of quote unquote regular people who aren't really in the fitness space. Um, they're very smart and they're very intuitive with the stuff that they say. One guy, he was like, "Well, I'd imagine it. When it comes to things like that, I'm sure if you're just healthier, then they probably have less impact on you." And I was like, "Damn." I'm like that guy. I'm like that's true. Like the fitter you are, the I'm not saying it's not going to negatively impact you, but these hydrogenated oils and these vegetable oils and stuff that people are talking about being so very harmful, and how they have a negative impact on like heart disease and stuff. It's like I don't think they have that much of a negative impact on heart disease in people that are healthy, in people that are eating correctly all the time, and people
Hmm.
that are lifting, and people that are people that are paying attention to 8 out of 10 things, and occasionally they're having soybean oil. I don't think they're going to keel over from fucking soybean oil. I don't think they're
Yeah.
going to keel over from glyphosates and stuff. Now, I would love for these things to not be in our food supply, but they're there. And then another guy was mentioning autophagy. He was mentioning how that was one of the benefits of fasting, because I was talking about like why people would fast. And
Hmm.
one guy was talking about it because he's like, "Man, I got to get control over my diet. Like it's just a mess, and I'm a little heavier than I want to be." And he had some other medical issues and stuff that he wanted to clear up. And I was telling him, intermittent fasting would be great. I was talking to him about kind of a ketogenic style diet, how that would be great. And then that's when the other guy kind of came in and was like, "Yeah," and then autophagy can happen too, so it can help reverse some of the impact of like aging and stuff. And I was like, this is a cool conversation to be in. How these people are, because the guy that came in and talked about autophagy, that wasn't his concern. Like his concern wasn't weight loss.
Hmm.
He was thinking about like what would I get from this. And I think that's the same thing when you talk about like a low carb diet. Someone's like, "Well, why would I do low carb? Like I'm already, you know, I'm already at a pretty good body fat percentage." It's like because you probably don't need those extra carbs. Probably not healthy for you to eat to you down all those extra carbs all the time. Now, if it's matching up with your performance in the gym and you feel that the performance in the gym is really good and you feel really good every day, then maybe you don't really need to change much. But it never hurts to try stuff. And I think that it doesn't hurt. I was mentioning to everybody yesterday, I was like, just try 2 or 3 days of like low carb and higher fat. Just give it a shot and see how you feel. And I was like, if you just go to zero carb and you like start cutting way back, it might not make any sense to you. I'm like, it's going to probably take you just a few days to even learn the right types of food.
Mm-hmm.
And then yesterday I was also talking to Matt in here. Matt's lost 18 pounds now, and he's on a
Yeah,
pretty good.
buddy.
Yeah, he's
I'm
on a
happy
damn.
for him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's on a damn good path, man. He's doing really great. But in having some conversation with him, we were talking a lot about trying to control, trying to gain control over your nutrition, and he was talking about how powerful fasting has been for him.
Nice.
But at the same time, we also had the conversation of he's been kind of toying around with this for about the last 6 months with nutrition in general.
Mm.
So it's very, very important that people realize, like, you're not going to go from like not ever dieting before to like being an expert. You're not going to go from being a white belt to being a black belt in terms of nutrition. Like Mike O'Hearn's a black belt when it comes to nutrition, right?
Yeah.
Like we can all kind of say like, okay, shit, he's the gold standard. The guy never misses a meal. He's always on point with stuff. He's done everything from fasting to keto to bodybuilding style diets, and he really knows how to push his brain and push his body. But for a lot of other people, it's like, man, you got to start out as a white belt, and you're gonna mess up frequently. It's probably
Yeah.
gonna take you like 3 months. I know you don't want to hear that. It's probably gonna take you 3 months just to even learn the right foods that are working for you.
That reminds me of the DM that I sent both of you guys. Some guy was talking about one of his coworkers who had a diet concept. I think it's good. There's some bad to it, but it's really good because, Matt said he's been messing with this diet or toying with his diet for the last 6 months, right? And he's been figuring out things that works for him, figure out what he can maintain for the long run. Now, this DM that I got was a guy talking about his coworker that dropped, I don't know, it was 100 pounds or something. I have to look back at it, but he dropped a lot of weight. Okay. But on his journey to dropping that amount of weight, his big concept was, I'm going to fail at this at some point, and I just need to make sure that the amount of time that I fail or mess up is less than the last time. So he would fail on his diet. Maybe he'd cheat for a few days or go off of it for a few days, say 4 days, example. Okay, get back on it. The next time, it's not going to be 4 days. It's not going to be as bad as it was before. Okay, back on. The next time, it's going to be maybe 2 days. It's not going to be as bad as before, but I'm going to stick on it, right? He just made sure that every time he fell off, because falling off is inevitable. You may have, your husband or your wife at home stresses you out. Boom, you go and you mess up for a little bit. But you just make sure that every time you handle this fail or this cheat, it's not as bad as it was before. That in and of itself is like, even if you don't look at it that way, that is somewhat inevitable. Like when I started fasting, I couldn't fast for a long period of time. I couldn't handle the hunger pangs. So I would eat, but I just made sure the next time I fasted, I just tried to do it a little bit longer, right? So everything you do, there's going to be a point where you mess up or you fall off a little bit. But if you just make sure that every time you get a little bit better or you do a little bit not as bad, twisting words there, you'll be able to get to that end goal in the long run.
Yeah, well, look at any professional athlete, right? Like, let's just take LeBron James. He's a master at what he does, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does he make every single shot he ever puts up?
No, of course not.
No. What does he do? He just gets right back on it. Why are we okay with that? But then when it comes to our diet, I messed up. I'm the worst person on the planet. It's like, no, just get right back to it.
Get back to it later.
Yeah.
Not many people know this, but our boy Nsima has a weakness.
I have a lot of weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Which one are we talking about here, though?
He doesn't like to run.
Ah, hell no.
And it's like,
I didn't know.
If we're to have conversations about you running, right? If we're to say, can you run a marathon? It's like, yeah, it's like laughable, right? Like, fuck, man. Like, it would take away from my jiu-jitsu. It would hurt my lifting. Like, it would have negative. And then you're thinking about, like, man, my knees, right? Could you suck less at running?
Yeah.
Right? That's easy, right? So could someone be less fat? You go to Matt before, a couple weeks before he started his diet. Like, Matt, dude, like, do you think you can get lean? Like, let's do this challenge. Can you get ripped? Can you get shredded? No, dude, I don't have it in me to do that. Okay, Matt, how about this? Could you be less fat? He'd probably be like, fuck yeah, anybody can be less fat, right? And so that's kind of what we're talking about here with this guy changing the dialogue. Like, if I'm going to fall off, it's not going to be that ugly. I'm going to fall off and I'm going to try to make it not be as negative. Look, I think there's a lot of fucking food that people really love that they're not paying attention to. It's really easy to get all pumped up and be like everybody else and go, oh, look at the pizza or look at the fast food. Or Andrew was talking about cooking up a Piedmontese steak last night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, dude, I know we love In-N-Out and stuff, but like, how much better is that than In-N-Out burger?
Dude, it was so good. So I did use the smoker, and then I did sear it afterwards. I'm so, like, I'm in such a good spot. Like, I'm so grateful. I get to follow Mark around with the camera at times, and we have walked into some of the absolute best restaurants that, are available to us here in California.
Yeah.
You've been with us too.
Yeah.
This Piedmontese ribeye cap steak that I cooked up, I put it up against any of those steakhouses.
Is your phone broken? Because I think mine's broken because I didn't get like an invitation.
What had happened
over
was,
to eat this steak. Did you get an
No,
invitation?
I actually didn't get one. You're right. I'm kind of surprised.
I wonder if there's something wrong with our like connection or something, or maybe the Wi-Fi.
I don't think he likes us very
I think
much.
I sent an email. It might have went to spam.
I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I'll keep that in mind the next time I want to do anything fun.
There is a
with Mark.
I mean, there's still a promo code available if you guys want to order some up for yourself.
No,
I can help you cook it. Like, I don't mind. I can help out.
I do want to mess with your smoker though, because I'm still using the air fryer.
So again, nothing against the air fryer, but actually using a smoker and the grill and everything, it's just so much better.
I get it. You're better than me. Do you want to rub it in more?
Yeah. How are you doing on the speed bag? Do you still suck at that?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I'm much better at you than much better than you on the speed bag.
Speed
as well.
bagging it.
Yeah. So that's another thing.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's all right.
Yep,
Nice.
just keeping this winning streak going.
Dude,
winning streak.
What's up with the 25% off on Piedmontese beef? We might as well hit people with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys want to get in on some of this amazing Piedmontese beef, I know people are gonna be like, "Oh, like you're biased." It's their sponsor. No joke. This ribeye cap steak was incredible. Like dude, so much flavor, and all I do is throw salt all over it. Less fat than you would expect from a ribeye, but tender. It was just amazing. So if you guys want to get in on that, just head over to Piedmontese.com. That's PIEDMONTESE.com. Enter promo code Power Project. That's going to get you 25% off these cap steaks and anything else on the site. And if your order goes above $99, then you get free 2-day shipping. So you can order right now and be grilling 2 days. It's kind of amazing.
Dude, this perfect keto nootropic, it has fucking BHB in it. It has ketones in it, which I didn't know it had ketones in it until I was looking at this like microscopic letters they got on the back here. I had to
got so much.
I had to throw on my old reading glasses because that's pretty small. Even when my eyes were working better, that would have been a challenge. But yeah. It has it's got some ketones in it, so I think that's a little bit part of that buzz factor that's in there.
Yeah.
And then I've been mixing that in with some coffee and in with some extra ketones from the coffee-based ketones. And that's been working pretty good for me. That's the mixture I got right here. I threw in a scoop of Slingshot protein too, and I threw in some Dutch Bros coffee into the whole thing. Damn. So, yeah, I'm ready for launch.
Dude, I was gonna say, that's literal fuel in a cup. Like I think
I got a boner.
Yeah. Well, okay, that makes sense. I can't keep it at the house. Like it's gonna disappear. Stephanie, my fiance, takes it every single day. She's still following a ketogenic style diet.
Don't touch my shit, Stephanie.
Yeah, so I'm stoked to tell her like, hey, there's some ketones in there because like that BHB that was way over my head. I was just focusing on the nootropic side of things.
It's one thing to tell someone like, you can try it, and then when they really dig it, and you're looking at like you don't have any left for yourself, you're like, hey, like, can you?
That was that
calm down with this a little bit?
That was a one-time thing,
Yeah, I just wanted you to try it. I didn't want you to steal all of it.
Yeah. I mean, if you've followed the podcast, I'm such a dork when it comes to nootropics, and this one I'm so impressed with. It's again, most nootropic companies they understand that there's such thing as fat soluble and water soluble, and a majority of the nootropics that are in other nootropic companies supplements, they don't have fat, obviously. It's good. And this one does. This one has MCT oils, and it has the what is it?
BHB, ketones.
BHB. Yeah.
BHB, baby.
So it's got you covered on all fronts. I love taking it in the morning. It's like it's a really easy pick me up, and then mixing it with coffee. I'm gonna try that next. It really gets you focused. If you guys want to get in on that, head over to perfectketo.com/powerproject. At checkout, enter promo code Power Project. That's going to get you 15% off everything at perfectketo.com. And highly recommend this nootropic. It's like a chocolate flavor. Again, that's nothing I've ever experienced when it comes to nootropics.
Kind of feels like dark chocolate, though. Am I tripping? Or am I
No,
right?
it does.
No, yeah,
right?
the
It's really good.
The best chocolate is dark chocolate, so it makes sense.
It's some good stuff, man.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
And the bars are good. And they got krill oil, and they got electrolytes. They got all kinds of stuff over there. You got to check it out.
Been taking the electrolytes daily. Yeah,
I've been using those electrolytes every single day.
yeah,
Makes
so
big
crucial.
difference. Yeah.
I heard someone talking the other day about fish oil and how it will be absorbed a lot better when you have it with fat. So, try to have your fish oil with a meal. Especially if you have like a fatty meal, you have a steak or something. I know fish oil can, not always be the most pleasant thing to take. Also, keeping it in the fridge or keeping it in the freezer can kind of help with those fishy burps that sometimes you might end up getting.
Yeah. And the bars. Keep the bars in the fridge.
Oh yeah. Those bars are great in the fridge.
Yeah, I haven't had the fishy burps in a really long time. I don't know if I've just like got over that or just I don't know. But
I've never had the fishy burps.
That's good. So if anybody's interested in any of the products we just talked about, the links will be in the description and in the show notes wherever you're listening to this.
All right, back to it. So I'm at this party, right, and people are telling me about, having all these problems, and it's really interesting the way that people deliver their medical problems to you because they're embarrassed by it.
Mm-hmm.
They're like shy about it, So this one woman's telling us about she had a sleep study done, and I'm like, why has this woman had a sleep study done? She's in great shape. Like, it makes no sense. Turns out, in a roundabout way, she's trying to tell us that she has also been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and she just didn't want to come out and say it because it's kind of embarrassing because we all know that, yes, you can have genetics that line you up great for some of these disastrous diseases, which is unfortunate. However, it's a metabolic disease, and you kind of dug yourself a hole and you put yourself there. And maybe it was easier for you to put yourself there than the next person. Yeah. And no one's like deserving of any of this, regardless of their habits or whatever. And I think a lot of times it's just lack of knowledge. You just don't know. You don't know that these bad habits are going to punch you in the face one day, but they will. And they'll punch you in the face in a different way. Like some people, it shows up on their stomach. And then they look down, they go, oh my God, my stomach's too big. I better do something about that. And so we know about, like, especially amongst men, with abdominal fat, that's a sign of like a heart attack. You got a waist that's like over 40 inches and bigger, and then you're not heading in a good direction when it comes to heart disease.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of look down at your stomach and be like, that's not great. I don't like the way that looks. I'm going to make some changes about it. But like, what do you do sometimes if it doesn't register that way? Because maybe you're not like an overeater, but maybe you're overdoing sugar. Maybe you're overdoing some alcohol, and maybe your pancreas and your liver and your kidneys, they're all just getting smashed around. Like they're not designed for any of this. We had someone on the podcast recently say, we're not designed to have 300 grams of carbohydrates a day. I don't even know if we're designed to have like more than 100, real honestly. Like, now that doesn't mean we can't have more than 100 when we're trying to go for a desired result in bodybuilding or have some of these special effects on some certain sports and stuff. But it doesn't really make a lot of sense to have that amount of carbohydrates, which just basically turns into glucose into sugar in your body all the time. But one thing I was trying to, I'm trying to listen and digest, what people are telling me. And I'm trying to be as kind as I can with my recommendations, but I will be totally honest and say that when someone tells me that they have diabetes, to me, it's almost like someone fell off their bike and scraped their knee. I'm like, this is so repairable. Like this is give me something harder. I'm not a doctor or physician, so I don't pretend that I know how to deal with a lot of different things. But that one, I know the recipe for it, and it's a ketogenic style diet. And fasting can be hugely influential. And I think a lot of people, I don't want to encourage people to like just randomly come off a medication because, again, I'm not a doctor or physician. However, from what I've seen, I've had people send me endless amounts of messages on this. They'll try a ketogenic diet. They picked up my War on Carbs book. You can get it on Amazon, or you can go to markbellslingshot.com and pick it up. It's like $25. And there's a lot of other books on ketogenic diets. It doesn't even have to be my book. Try a ketogenic diet for a few weeks, and you're going to notice some marked improvements when it comes to your blood, when it comes to your resting insulin levels, and when it comes to your resting glucose levels. It'll have a huge impact on your diabetes. And I think a lot of people can reverse diabetes. Maybe there's people with some circumstances. Maybe it doesn't help. Maybe they need more intervention than that. But for the most part, from what I've seen, lowering your carbs, increasing your fat, and ketones are actually a key component to this whole thing, because ketones can actually turn on certain things in your genes to help combat some of these things that are happening to you while you're having diabetes, heart disease, cancer, a lot of these other diseases that are causing people, tons and tons of problems. Beyond that, like even just lowering the amount of carbohydrates that you intake and that you consume can really be hugely beneficial. So these are all things to look into. And as I'm talking to some of these people, I start kind of learning about their nutritional habits, and they eat some candy here and there, and they're not really getting enough protein. And it's like, all this is really adding up, because otherwise it didn't make any sense to me. Because I'm like, you're fit, you swim every day. I don't understand what the hell's going on,
Yeah, that was one of the big reasons that like, other than wanting to see how I'd be able to perform in the gym with less carbs, but the diabetes reason was one of the big reasons why I picked up trying lower carb. Because like my grandfather died of diabetes, my uncle has diabetes, and he had his left leg chopped off from the knee down. And he didn't have really control over that too. He was eating less carbs and stuff too, but he couldn't necessarily stop. He didn't have control over stopping. So utilizing both fasting and lower carb has given me that control. And I know, you see it all the time, exactly, fit people that get this later in life, even though they exercise all the time. Exercise isn't going to guard you from that.
Some people that really exercise a lot.
Yeah.
Like doing marathons and shit.
And but that's the thing though too, Mark, is because like we know and we've seen a lot of elite level athletes, and even athletes that do a lot of cardiovascular type work, doing well eating higher fats and lower carbs. I think there's one thing within like not just the lifting community, but the athletic community. A lot of trainers and a lot of people say you won't be able to perform at a high level if you don't have a lot of carbs. So you get scared. I got scared that I wouldn't be able to perform at a high level if I didn't have my 300, 350, 400 grams of carbs each day for my workouts. It's especially for athletes or people that put a lot of weight into their athletic ability and their athletic potential, whether they be someone who's not competing and they just, they work out every day, or someone who does compete. They put a lot of weight behind that. So it's very scary to say or try doing lower carb work and still, work at a high level. But it's very possible. And if you can just give that a shot for a while, you can prevent a lot of these things from happening.
Yeah, I was also talking to an individual yesterday that had lost a lot of weight, and he gained it back, and then he started losing again. And I said, well, where did all this start for you? Like, how did you get momentum to get going in the right direction? Because he lost like 80 pounds, and then he gained about 60 of it back, and then he lost 40. So he's still in a much better place than he has been before. And this was a guy that swims too. So it's like he kind of knows better. Like he has some of the information. He just doesn't have the habits down quite yet. And what this guy did was he got a hold of a nutritionist, and he got all fired up about training, and he went into this kind of system where he was training nearly every day, training 5 days a week. He was on this nutrition plan, weighing stuff and doing all these things. And it was just too much. It wasn't sustainable. So he did lose the weight. He did get the results. And if he stayed on that path, he would have held those results. But once he was kind of left to do some of his own stuff, it just it fell apart for him. It was like he couldn't keep the motivation by himself. He couldn't stick to certain things by himself. But what he said, and I found this really interesting, and I agree 100%, This is where I think most people should start. I think most people should start with exercise, because I think what happens inside your kitchen is too daunting and too hard. So start with like movement, like get some movement going, and then start slowly but surely trying to introduce certain foods, like maybe just maybe just add a little bit more protein to your diet, maybe add a little bit more fruit, maybe add a little bit more vegetables, like just add stuff into the equation. Make sure you're not hungry. Try not to overeat. Like real simple. Try to get extra sleep. Like try some of these simple rules on top of getting in a couple of walks every day. And now we're starting to build some good habits to where you can start to move forward. And you can start to say, oh, maybe I should, maybe I should start to not eat as much rice or not eat as much potatoes. Bring that down a little bit and see how I feel from there.
It's usually not rice and potatoes, though.
No, I know.
Right?
I know.
It's usually not rice and potatoes.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's just been echoed a lot throughout this episode. It's really all about just those habits. It's about not eating an insane amount of food with every single meal. It's about not snacking between every single meal all day to, fight hunger. I think one of the biggest things that an end goal for people is to not let hunger affect your actions. That's where we were, like when we're hungry, we eat, right? And a lot of times you hear even like when you're hungry, you should eat something. But, there's finding that place where you're hungry and you're okay with it, but not going so far where you're perpetually hungry and now you're fighting it and it becomes a disorder type eating thing. So I think that we need to be able to find that fine line between that, because being a little bit hungry is not a problem.
It's great.
Yeah, like when some people come on the show and like talk about fasting and the negative things, right, and how it turns to disorder eating or whatever, I still think that like it's not. There's no problem being a little bit hungry sometimes. I feel like when sometimes listeners listen to that, they're like, oh yeah, okay, well, I can't do fasting because then if I get hungry, I'll become anorexic or bulimic or whatever. I'll get an eating disorder. But being a little bit hungry or fasting and utilizing that is not that detrimental. I think I'm really curious about this too. When John Berardi came on the other day and he talked about women using fasting and how it can, they can lose their periods and a few other things. I wonder in those situations, number one, how far did they take it? Number two, how like little were they potentially eating, or
It's
how
probably very drastic.
it's probably very drastic. Like they might have been doing a lot of exercise, very little eating, and long hours of fasting. Because from the women that I know that do fast and they use it well, there's no period loss. There's no massive negative changes in their health just because they don't eat for a few hours during the day. So it's not that bad.
And the worst eating disorder of all is obesity. Like that is a disorder. Like you don't have any order. You don't have any control over anything, and that's the disorder that's killing people. I do feel for people that have eating disorders, that have like bulimia and anorexia, and like I don't pretend to understand any of that. I never ran into any of that, but I do feel for those people, and those people, they probably just need to get professional help, because since I don't see a lot of great information being shared, and I don't know if a lot of people know exactly what to do that. So you probably need to see a professional when you start to fall into that category of things. But man, I think obesity is a huge eating disorder that no one ever talks about.
We don't even call it, like a lot of people don't call it exactly. They don't call it an eating disorder.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, I hear a lot of people when it comes to fasting, when I recommend it, it's like, if I don't eat, I'm gonna get a terrible headache because I get headaches when I don't eat. Is that like a withdrawal from like carbs, or I mean, they're probably just dehydrated, I think.
There's a lot of dehydration going on with everybody.
Yeah, and I think they're just associating this headache with like, it's because I didn't eat, but it's like, well, I don't know, you're probably gonna get the headache anyways. But that's what I hear the most.
There's probably a bunch of stuff to think about. I mean, number one, go back to our boy Charlie, right? Like if you are like waiting for something to happen, it's going to happen. So like, oh, there's my headache. Yeah, well, of course, there's your headache.
Yeah.
Every time it's windy, I get allergies. Okay, your allergies might even happen before the wind even picks up. You know what I mean? Like, so you can live your life that way, or you can kind of change some of your mindset. So I think mindset can be part of it. Like, don't be a baby. Like, honestly, just don't Just don't be a whiny baby about it, and try to be reasonable with it. Like, have you ever really tried any fasting? Have you tried to miss breakfast? If you never tried to miss breakfast, then maybe that's the first place you should start. And then maybe try to skip breakfast and lunch, and maybe only do it twice a week or 3 times a week, with some of this intermittent fasting. And then over a period of time, maybe try it a couple more days out of the week. And the other thing is, like Nsima's mentioning, dehydration can be a huge part of it. If you're going to fast, make sure like the only thing, you're not just drinking coffee. I think a lot of people are doing that. They're just having like a bulletproof coffee and they think they're good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, man, you should be drinking some water, and you should be probably adding a little bit of salt when you do have an opportunity to eat. Sometimes if you add salt just to your water, sometimes it doesn't work great because that gets diluted as well. And also sometimes that can cause your stomach to kind of go a little crazy. You can add some salt to your water here and there, to your drinks. But just, pay attention to what you're doing with that as well. Salt some of your foods. But intermittent fasting is a great pathway to, I'm telling people to start out with some activity, start out with some walking. Well, I think the second place to start would be with some intermittent fasting, because now I don't really have to sit here and explain all the nutritional details of everything to you.
Yeah.
I just need you to I need you to spend more time not eating. That's all we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right now you spend too much time eating. You spend too much time concerned with what you're going to eat, when you're going to eat it, and you're obsessed with your food. So I need to figure out a way to pull back from it. Easiest way to pull back from it, in my opinion, and from what I've done and seen and what I've seen you do, is to abstain from eating earlier in the day. I tried to abstain from eating later at night. It didn't work well. That was the hardest diet I've ever tried to follow. I was not able to do it.
Yeah.
It didn't fit with my lifestyle either. So it didn't fit with, like, I can't like go home and like not eat with my family. Like, that's weird. So that just didn't work. But I tried it. I gave it a shot. So missing like a meal or two and having your first meal start at 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock or something like that. And every day you eat at 2 and at 6, or every day you eat at 4 and at 8, or whatever whatever your schedule is.
Yeah.
Try to eat twice a day or 2.5 times a day. Maybe you have a small snack after that last meal, or maybe you have a protein shake, or maybe you do even have 3 meals, but you have get some sort of cutoff point on where you stop eating. And when we start to equate for intermittent fasting, I think what ends up happening, especially with people that want to have some results in the gym, and what I've seen from a lot of people, is they start making better choices on what they eat because they like the performance in the gym. They like the performance when they go run, or when they go swimming, or whatever it is their activity is. They're going to have better results if they eat better quality food. Whereas it doesn't matter as much if you just are haphazardly eating throughout the whole day. Now you only have 2 meals. You better get your shit together. And then what have we talked about in this podcast before? Your protein levels are fixed.
Yeah.
So you're already on the hook for getting proper amounts of protein in. And then I would advise you to get in some fruits and some vegetables. And then if you're, eating tater tots with a cheeseburger or whatever, I don't think it's going to matter that much. Over a period of time, you're probably going to want to shift into something a little healthier, but I think that you could still eat like that every day and still make progress towards weight loss.
You can. One big thing I think we just touched on was, and we don't talk much about it, but it's such a big deal for a majority of people, because even I've made this mistake quite a bit, is hydration. One thing that I do, and I think it'll benefit you a lot, is just like put some water in a bottle before you go to sleep, or like have something next to your bed. When you wake up, just have that water be the first thing you drink. And then just carry it around with you. It doesn't need to be a big gallon jug. Could be like one of those 16-ounce, 20-ounce bottles, but just carry that around during the day and fill it up. Because, Andrew, I think you talked about this one of the other days. One of the biggest reasons why a lot of people maybe get a little bit dizzy or tired when they're working out, or they get a little bit hungry, the feeling of hunger during the day, isn't because they're actually hungry. It's because they're super, super dehydrated. It's one habit that, we pay a lot of attention to our nutrition and our food, but our hydration is something that a lot of times is just like, you really don't think about it because you don't, it's just not on your mind. But if you're well hydrated, that feeling of hunger typically doesn't come as soon. And when it does come, at least it's not a mixed signal. Because a lot of times if you just have a drink when you feel like you're hungry, you're not hungry anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what about like adding salt to water? Like should
Oh,
should
yeah.
people
There's a
even
bunch of that.
like because you're saying like oh put the bottle of water on the side of your bed. Like should we even be telling people like I don't want to give them too much stuff if they're not doing it right now, but like is like salt like kind of the first go to, or is it okay to just be like no, just get water in and then we'll focus on salt later?
Yeah, I think you get your water in and just salt your food.
Okay, there you go.
And
Yeah.
you can throw if you want. You want to be dedicated to it and throw a little salt in your water. I don't think it's gonna be of any harm, but sometimes I think people will like. I don't think you should be salting it so much that you taste it.
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't be like. It shouldn't like. You shouldn't be like whoa. You know what I mean? Like just a little bit of salt would probably go a long way, and it might prevent you from waking up and using the bathroom as much. So
Mhm.
that would, and then plus it depends on the time of year. In the
Mm-hmm.
summertime, you're going to lose a lot more salt than
Oh,
normal.
yeah.
Um, I just think people just need to kind of go base off of like their lifestyle, and I like the idea of like having that water next to your bed. I try when I wake up, first thing I have is not coffee. The first thing I have is water. I try to like, I'm thinking to myself, this is a way for me to get ahead.
Mhm.
I mean, you spend the night excreting water. Sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night, use the bathroom, and sometimes you're just kind of like sweating and stuff. You're gonna wake up lighter every day. You're gonna wake up a little bit lighter than you went to bed. It's just because you are getting like dehydrated. So start your day out with a big old gulp of water.
Yeah, I look forward to that now. That's the first thing I do.
It's
is-
refreshing.
It's so weird. Like I get all excited. I'm like like when you're like as a kid you're like microwaving like a pizza pocket or something. Well, you guys didn't eat that way. I did.
Pizza pocket? No, I had a Hot Pockets.
Okay, so
Hot
like
Pockets were
you know
shit.
you, that,
They
that-
never cool down.
No, they
Ooh,
don't.
they're usually just too hot at the beginning too.
That's like an omelet. When you
but-
cook an omelet, you're like,
Yeah.
when do I get a chance to eat this thing?
Uh huh.
How
It's
about
like on fire.
how about potatoes?
Oh,
They're
Oh
just-
yeah.
god,
they're-
I hate that.
They're insulated.
Yeah.
There's a potato somewhere that I cooked 4 years ago that's still hot.
I take potatoes and I'll put them in water because they take so I'm like I can't wait.
Yeah,
I can't handle this.
that's such
It's-
a good move.
Oh my god! And it like makes the water boil.
It's actually
It's like so fucking hot.
That's a good idea. I need to do that from now on because that's my one gripe with heating up potatoes. You cut it open and it's just like it burns you for the next 15 minutes until it cools
You
down.
just got to deal
Well,
with
it
though,
also-
but yeah.
Supposedly turns into like a resistant starch when you cool it,
Oh,
which
really?
makes it have like it's some sort of magic powers. It makes it have less carbohydrates in it because it starts to have more fiber in it. But I think it takes a few hours for that to actually happen. I think you need
I
to
ain't
like.
It's not just the
fucking wait like
temperature.
I think you
thing?
need to refrigerate it. Yeah,
So is it not just the temperature thing? It needs to like sit cold for a little bit.
I believe so.
Mm,
I believe
Interesting.
so. Resistant starches.
that's a whole.
I think kind of to pull all this in together is like I think that Andrew, myself, and Nsima have found ways to integrate this into a lifestyle to where we are thinking about it. We do think about everything that we're doing, but it's maybe like a jujitsu move where we've rehearsed it so many times, we went over it so many times. It's just a reaction to, whatever events are coming our way. So Andrew likes to meal prep, and he's here for long hours here at Slingshot, working hard, and so he brings an arsenal of food with him, so he doesn't make mistakes.
Mhm.
Nsima's developed some techniques where he's not going to fuck up. He's got some ideas in his head on how he can manage each day. I got the same thing. I would say Nsima and I are unique in a sense that we're like, in the closet bodybuilders in some way. Like you're not going to really catch us like doing a lot of bodybuilding stuff. Like he doesn't walk around with a gallon jug. I don't really walk around with a bunch of BCAAs. You're not going to really see either one of us with Tupperware. That's not really I might come in here occasionally because I'm like, oh fuck, I'm gonna be screwed. I'm gonna be there all day, so I might bring in a steak, but my steak will be like in a Ziploc bag, and I'll pull it out and eat it like it's a protein bar. That's
Yeah.
my meal prep.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way that you want to try to figure it out. How can you do all this and almost have other people go, how the fuck's he doing that? Like I don't see him walking around.
Mm.
Like remember in school there was always like the cool kids, they never had like any books with them. And you're like, how the fuck do they not have any books? Like,
Yeah.
I'm always in trouble. Like, if I don't do my homework, I'm always in trouble.
Backpack's killing my shoulders.
Yeah, you got a backpack that weighs 100 pounds and you still have shit grades. So you want to try to figure out, and I'm not like really saying like it's important, like look cool or anything, but like try to figure out a way to make it seamless in your lifestyle. Try to find a way to make it, like for me, it's like I just eat when I'm home. And I have some luxury with my schedule. I have some flexibility with my schedule to where every once in a while, if I'm here and I'm just like really hungry, you know, I can go through some of that hunger, and I have learned how to go through some of that hunger, but I can occasionally go, man, I worked out really hard today. Like today's kind of kicked my ass. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go home and I'm going to eat. And I might cook up, you know, steak and eggs. And like, I don't have a lot of, I'll eat leftovers here and there, but it's pretty rare. It's like I cook up my food fresh. I believe that everyone has the same situation as Nsima and I, though. I think everyone's home twice a day. Like everyone, you might travel, right? So with the exception of travel, you're waking up in your home and you're probably going to bed in your home. So it's like, well, you could eat in the morning before you leave if you wanted to. You can kind of fast through the middle portion of the day. Then you can eat when you come home. Sometimes that breakfast meal, though, might make you ferociously hungry. So that might not work great for you.
Yeah.
And you might, like, an option that I've tried before that has worked well for me is to have a really, really small breakfast. But what you'll find is that's really hard to do because you'll want to eat more. We tend to eat with our eyes. But if you had like 2 eggs and like 2 strips of bacon, that would probably work pretty good. And yes, you will get a little hungrier like midday, but it will go away. The other option is just not to eat. Just wait till you get home at 5 or 6, and then, you know, have a double dinner. You know, like legitimately eat at 5, and then 6:30 comes around. You know, hit it up again, and maybe you know, finish off your day with some strawberries dipped in some like whipped cream or something like that, or get some peaches or nectarines. I mean, there's these foods, they taste so good. Like if someone chops it up to you and gives it to you, like if someone just put a bowl of nectarines on the table right now, we'd eat the shit out of them. Be like, oh my God, these are so goddamn good.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law came over a few weeks ago. She made a fruit salad and dumped cinnamon all over it. I was like, you didn't put like sugar on this or anything? She's like, nope, just cinnamon. I was like, this is fucking awesome. It was so good. And I think that we're, you know, Andrew talking about that steak that he cooked up. I think we forget, man. We forget how good those foods taste amazing.
Yeah.
And it's not the same as like a ice cream or pizza or candy but man, it's good in its own right, and it has a higher quality value. It means more to our body to give our body the right stuff rather than, you know, influencing it with the shitty food. I think that's all we got, right?
I think so.
I think so.
All right, strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch y'all later.